behavioral approach, live ones I do not bring out because noise scares them. So I find if some people make too much noise, I don't dare bring some creatures out. Now the first animal we talk about Michigan animals, you gotta talk about this one creature. This creature is causing big environmental problems. When this first animal shows up, guess what happened to the other animals? They start to die. We do not have as many rabbits in our forests as we used to. We don't have as many mice in our forests as we used to. We don't have as many birds in our forests as we used to. And even the insects are disappearing because of this creature. One animal makes the insects disappear, then all the insect-eating birds and insect-eating bats, they disappear too. Well, the animal is too big to bring the whole thing. So I bring part of the animal they can recognize. The creatures making other creatures disappear is the animal that this came from.
A deer.
Which kind of deer though? It is a deer, very good.
I think a little deer.
Not a little deer. In fact, this would be a big one. It would, a year and a half old probably. It's called a white-tailed deer. They call them a white-tailed deer for a reason. When they get scared, they run away. Sometimes, they don't always do it. Sometimes they wave their tail and all the other deer like, hey, what's he afraid of? And they start looking around, and they get nervous. And then they run up. So when they wave their tail, it's kind of like warning the deer, watch out, somebody scared me. It doesn't tell them what it is. At least they know to be afraid of something. And who can tell me what this is in my hand? What is this part of the animal deer called?
Antler.
It's an antler. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of adults don't know this is an antler. You ask somebody, how big were the horns on your deer? Deer don't have horns. Cows have horns and goats have horns. Sheep have horns. And guess what? They never fall off. They just get bigger every year, and they're made the same stuff from fingernail. This is an antler. Falls off every year. They have to start every year from scratch. They normally fall off late March and early April. Guess what? They start growing new ones. It doesn't take them long to start growing. If you want to see what it feels like, by the way, you can. Now, right now, Michigan's got about 2 million deer, and that's a problem. I like deer. I did my doctorate work on deer. I've been studying deer for 3 years. Well, guess what I found out? Deer are really nothing but a giant stomach on 4 legs. They're an eating machine. All the deer does, he eats and he sleeps and he goes to the bathroom and eats some more. Now, if you guys want to eat as much as a deer, you couldn't. It'd be impossible for 2 reasons. First of all, you want to see the First of all, your stomach's not big enough to hold all the food they eat. And second, your parents couldn't afford to buy all the food they eat. For you to eat as much food as a deer, you have to go to McDonald's or Burger King and say, give me 32 quarter-pound hamburgers today. I want 32 more tomorrow and the next day, every day of my life. That's how much food a deer eats in a day. And we have 2 million deer in Michigan eating that every day. And that's not leaving enough food for some other creatures. We can never grow new maple forest in Michigan. We'll never grow new cedar swamp in Michigan because guess what? They eat the baby trees faster than they can grow. And so once the old trees die of old age, and there are no new ones to replace them, the animals that depend on those trees will disappear too. I like deer. They're a beautiful creature, but we have too many. And why do we have too many? They like the way we changed the world. A long time ago, Michigan had big forests, as far as eyeballs can see. Deer don't like big forests. They like a mixture of fields and forests. So, because of how we humans live, we made a better place for deer. And by the way, who can tell me what we call a male deer? What do we call a male deer? What do we call a male deer? A buck. Very good. And if every buck loses 2 antlers every year, our forest should be full of antlers. They're not. They're very, very hard to find. Because guess what? You might like hard candy. To a mouse, to a chipmunk, to a squirrel, to a porcupine, to a beaver, to a muskrat. That's better than hard candy. It's high protein, very nutritious, and they gobble right on down. Now, deer, we have too many of them. Now, this next creature is kind of the opposite. This next creature used to live right here where you live, but it doesn't live here anymore. Because a lot of people don't like this next creature. This creature kills trees. And some people, well, trees are good things. And so if an animal kills a tree, it must be a bad thing. Well, that's not the way nature works. I like this next animal because he kills trees. I like dead trees. I like live trees. I by myself have been known to plant over 30,000 trees in a single year. I've worked hard to change my property from an old farm into forest. So I like live trees. But I also like dead trees because we have 30 kinds of birds in Michigan that do not like to make their nest or home in a live tree. Dead trees become soft and it's easier to make a hole in them. And this creature is the one that kills the trees so the woodpeckers can move in, and chickadees can move in, and bluebirds move in. And that's this creature here. They used to live right here where you live, but people killed too many of them, and now they no longer live here. Luckily, they still live in northern Michigan. You're most likely to see them dead alongside the road, because they're about as slow as an opossum going across the road. They don't move very fast. Does anybody know what kind of animal this is? It's a tougher one. What do you think it is?
Porcupine.
Very good. It's a porcupine. You've been doing some reading. It's a porcupine. You'd be surprised how people don't know what a porcupine looks like. A lot of grown-ups don't know what a porcupine is because they never see them. They're out mostly at night. In the summertime, if you're out either on the ground in the forest, you hardly ever see them. I like porcupines. Now, I grew up in northern Michigan where there's still a lot of porcupines. And you tell people you saw porcupines, well, did you kill it? I said, no, I like them. So why didn't you kill it? It kills trees. I said, yeah, that's why I like them. Oh, by the way, I don't look for them in the summertime. They're too hard to find. But in the winter, that's when I find the porcupines. Now, in the winter, they like eating plants all year long. But in the winter, there's not a lot of green plants up there, are there? So what do? They climb the trees, they eat the bark off the tree. And they drop so much food down to the ground, the rabbits come hopping in. The deer, they smell the porcupine, they come running in, and they feed on the food he drops. So he's killing the tree, but he's dropping food for the rabbits and the deer and some of the other creatures. But you know how I really find them? I walk around in the forest and I do this. I simply go, ooh, man. They smell so bad, I can smell them before I see them. They're nasty. Because guess what? They don't want to freeze to death. Now in the middle of winter, it's really cold up there in the treetop. When the wind is blowing, you get that wind chill factor, they can freeze to death. So guess what they do? They climb down the tree, they find a cave, and we're not talking about big cave you see in the movies. We're talking about the roots of the tree get lifted up. They go under those roots, they say, wow, there's no wind in here, there's no snow in here. Oh, wow, nice place to be. And they go to the bathroom in that little cave. And the next day, go to the bathroom in the same place. And the week after that, they might go there a week after. They might be going to the bathroom with their parents or grandparents went to the bathroom. And some people think that's kind of strange that animals all go to the bathroom in the same place. I don't know about your house, but we all have one little room we go into. You'd be surprised how many animals actually have bathrooms. But there's a difference. Our bathrooms, we can flush it, it goes away, doesn't it? They don't have flush toilets. So guess what makes them smell bad? Well, when it's cold out there in the wind, they go in that little cave, they go, wow, it's cozy. And they sleep on a giant pile of manure, a giant pile of poop. And that's what makes them smell bad. But there's a problem. When they sleep on that, they get little animals living inside called parasites. And guess what? Those little parasites, those worms, they steal energy from the porcupine, which means they gotta eat more food, which means they kill more trees, they make more homes for the woodpeckers and chickadees and all the other creatures. All because they sleep on a giant pile of food. It's amazing how nature works. I have another animal who lives right down by you, by the way. This creature never used to, but they live here now. Anybody know what creature this is from? What's it from? It's a coyote. If you want to see what it feels like, you can. Now, I know that some of you are dressed for the summer season. I don't know about you, I'm only wearing long pants because I'm doing a program. Normally this time of year I'm wearing shorts. But I don't wear a lot of shorts in the middle of winter. So we have our summer clothes and we have our winter clothes, don't we? Well, guess what? Animals in nature have their summer clothes and their winter clothes. This is a winter clothes for coyote. Nice long hair to keep them warm. But I don't know about you. I wouldn't want to be wearing a big heavy fur coat in the middle of summer. So guess what? In the winter they have long hair. In the summer they have short hair. And usually about April, The winter hairs fall out, the short hairs come in, and for a while they look just downright ugly. And every year we get newspaper reports or reports on the TV stations about, oh, I saw this coyote, he didn't look very healthy, his fur was kind of scroungy. Yeah, he's scroungy because he's changing into his summer clothes. Now, a lot of people are afraid of a coyote. There's not much to be afraid of a coyote. They only weigh about 30 pounds. They look a lot bigger than they really are with that long hair. I have coyotes on my property. I always enjoy seeing them. Guess what? I still have cats and I still have dogs on both sides, and they don't disappear because of the coyotes. I like my coyotes. And sometimes we see pictures of coyotes, and they show them in the movies howling at the moon. You know what's weird?
That's wolves.
They howl more when there is no moon. They're not out there singing for fun like, hey, let's have a good time. They're singing to locate each other. So when the moon is out, they can see each other like, yeah, I see you over there. And they can be quiet. But if they're hunting in a small group, a couple of them, they can't see each other. One makes a sound over here, one makes a sound over here, and they know where each other is at. So that actually some things we see like howling at the moon is the opposite of what they really do. Now, oh, by the way, I got a question for you. Now, where do coyotes sleep at night? You got an idea where a coyote sleeps at night? What do you think? In a cave. That's what we always see in the movies. Problem is we have no caves in southern Michigan. None at all. And yet we still have coyotes. So where do they sleep?
They make a den.
We always see them in a den. No, they don't sleep in a den. Oh, I got another question for you. We'll switch topics a little bit. Where do birds live?
Trees.
Some live in trees. But where do they sleep?
Nest.
No, they don't sleep in a nest. Yeah, that's right. Everybody thinks they sleep in a nest. Birds don't sleep in a nest. They raise their babies in a nest. Most of you, not all of you probably, but most of you are probably born in a hospital. Well, we don't live in a hospital. A nest is kind of like a hospital bed. In fact, I had my little baby robin on my lawn this morning. My dog was looking at it, and it was on the lawn, coming down from the nest. And that's probably the last time that bird will have ever seen its nest. Birds do not live in a nest, they're born in a nest. An animal does not live in a den. They're born in a den, a hole in the ground. Once they get big enough, they leave and never go back again. Until they're an adult and have their own babies and raise them underground. But they don't sleep, they just sleep wherever. Sleep in the middle of a field, in the middle of a forest. It's kind of strange how we see some of those things. Now, we're going to take a look at some live animals, some of the dead stuff. But we need to understand some of these animals are pretty important to us. The first live animal I want to show you is an animal. Oh boy, to me it's the animal that tells me spring has arrived. And spring arrives to me in March. The first night, when it's 40 degrees or warmer and it's rainy, when it gets dark, I start driving down the dirt roads by my house. Because these animals will go to the ponds to lay the little jelly-like eggs that are hatched into the tadpoles or pollywogs, and then when they grow up, they move to land. What kind of animal do you think might be going to the pond at 40 degrees? It's related to the frog, but it's not a frog. That's a good guess though. They have a tadpole stage, don't they?
Oh.
So what do you think it is?
I think it's a toad.
Toad's like 50 degrees. Oh, I forgot to mention, frog's like 42 degrees. Every animal seems to have their own temperature. This guy likes 40 degrees. Frogs, I don't see them until it's 42 degrees. Toads, I don't see until 50 degrees. I see this guy walking across snow sometimes to lay its egg. What do you think?
A salamander.
Very good. It's a salamander. And that's an animal a lot of people never even heard of, let alone realize. Let's see what we have here. And that's this creature right here. It's called a spotted salamander. Now this spotted, I can't let you touch it, but there will be some animals I can let you touch. And I'll explain why I can't touch this in a minute. But it's called a spotted salamander. Now they go to the pond very, very early in the spring. Like I said, usually March. That's when I start looking for them. Now when they go to the pond, they're kind of fussy. If they go to a pond and they smell fish, they will not lay their eggs there. Their tadpoles aren't fat and round like the frogs. They're very, very skinny. They're so skinny, they never survive where there's fish. Sometimes I do pond programs. And the tablets are so skinny, most students don't even notice them. They think it's a little piece of dead grass in the bottom of the tub. They're very, very tiny. But there's a problem. People quite often put fish in a pond. And as soon as they put fish in a pond, the salamander stop going there to lay their eggs. They don't even waste their time. We have another problem. There are tadpoles that have a favorite food. At one stage in their life, their favorite food is mosquito larvae. We have counties in Michigan spray every year to kill the mosquitoes. They think they're saving the world. They're not saving the world, they're wiping out the food supply for everybody, including these spotted salamanders.
I didn't know he was alive.
Oh yeah, he's alive. He's on the move. Now the reason I can't let people touch him is this. Amphibians, frogs, toads, salamanders, they breathe and drink through their skins. Something simple as soap on your hands from last time you washed them. Antibacterial stuff, skin lotion, salt or sugar from some snack you ate. You touch them, it'll go directly through their skin, into their blood, and it'll kill them. It'd be like putting those things inside your lungs. So guess what? That's why I don't let people touch it. They also have another thing, especially this next species. This next one's very, very similar. This is an adult. This next one's a juvenile, the young one. It's called a tiger salamander. This guy get twice this size. But he also has toxin or poison in their tail. When I see tiger salamanders on the road sometimes, I stop. Oh, and by the way, when I'm driving down the road, you don't want to be behind me. I go extremely fast. I go at least 8 miles an hour, not 10. Because by 10 miles an hour, I can't focus anymore. And then I see these guys on the road. At 10 miles an hour, they look like a stick. At 8 or 9 miles an hour, I can identify them as a salamander. When I see them, I jump out of my car. I try to move to the side so they don't get run over by some other car. But if they see me, they have adaptive behavior. They keep their heads still, they start to wiggle their tail. You're biting my tail, not my head. You bite your head, they're a dead salamander. You bite your tail, no big deal, they grow back. So the lizards can do that too. And again, this is not a lizard. Lizards are reptiles, they have dry skin, scales. The salamander does not. And this salamander is something no lizard has. Toxin, he's poisonous in his tail. Doesn't hurt me to touch him, but if I touch him and I can cut my hands, it'll burn a little bit. I can touch him and touch my eye and make me cry. Been there and done that. Sometimes I forget and I rub my eye while thinking about it. Or sometimes I'll discover I cut some of my hand I didn't know about. So they have a chemical defense. Now if a raccoon bites them, they get sick and they throw up. I don't want you, I don't like throwing up. Neither do raccoons. They bite one, they get sick, they don't do it again. Now if a possum bites them, guess what happens? The possum just has a meal. They're immune to the toxin. Oh, the possum is a totally amazing creature. And then you get bit by a rattlesnake and they don't even get sick from it. They've injected a possum with cobra venom and they didn't get sick from it. Possums are really super cool creatures. I like my salamanders. Oh, by the way, several years ago, in the fall, they were changed from tadpoles to land-living animals, and it was a rainy fall night, and my basement window was open. I went down in the morning, there were like 300 or 400 of those salamanders walking around the basement, enough to fill a bucket that full. You should have heard the noise they make. Every salamander made the exact same noise. Every salamander made this sound. Every salamander was going, hang on, he was going, that's the sound they make. It was amazing because you know what? They're down there eating spiders and insects in my basement. They weren't making any noise, weren't scratching the furniture, weren't shedding hair like a cat or dog. It was great. I caught most of them and let them go, but I did leave a couple down there to thin out the spider population. So they're kind of cool. Now the next thing we're going to look at is, oh yeah, good. He didn't escape. This next animal was kind of strange. It eats with his eyeballs.
Oh, it's a frog.
And it's not very smart, by the way.
It's a frog.
You sure? Are you positive?
I'm pretty sure it's like a frog.
You think frogs eat with their eyeballs? Come on. Where have you been reading?
What animal eats with?
Hang on, let's find out who eats with his eyeballs. Let's find out. Shh, hang on here. Hang on. He's slippery. Hang on, he's right here. The gentleman's right. It's a frog.
No way.
Now when I said he eats with his eyeballs,
He does.
I didn't say get dinner with his eyeballs. Well, watch this. I touch his eyes, watch what happens. I touch the eyes, they go in his head, they pop back up. Frogs do not have any bones behind the eyes like we do. So I shove his eyes in his head. The back of his eyes are actually in his mouth. Now we cannot see in his mouth because there's skin behind his eyes. The frogs use their eyeballs to help shove food down their throat. Can you imagine using your eyeballs to shove hot dogs and Dorito chips down your throat? Yeah, you're gonna be happy you're not a frog. We'll never know it's like a grasshopper kick us in the back of that as it goes down. They do. It's amazing. Now some people ask me, do they like having their eyes shut in your head? I don't have a clue. They never complain. And in Michigan, they have to get really used to it, especially the Upper Peninsula. In the Upper Peninsula, green frogs like this, they bury themselves in the mud by the middle of September, and UP, they may not come out until June. We're talking 8.5, almost 9 months, eyes inside for protection. What a boring life. Now, when I went to school, I learned how frogs have flies on their tongue. There's a problem. Only one place in the whole world do frogs have flies out of the upper tongue. And that place is called cartoons. Real frogs don't do it. Sorry to bust the bubble. Never seen it done. But a few years ago, to be honest, I've been saying this for years, and a few years ago I got brave. I was at a national conference, actually international, scientists from around the world, and I got brave enough to ask some other scientists. I said, have you guys ever seen a frog that will fly out of the air with their tongue? Not a single one has ever seen it. Some of them have worked with amphibians, frogs for years. Because guess what? Flies are too fast, frogs are too slow. Guess what he eats? This frog will eat anything that wiggles and fits in his mouth. And guess what wiggles in a pond? Smaller frogs. Big frogs eat small frogs eat smaller frogs. You better hope you're the big frog. And by the way, this is kind of a medium-sized frog. The biggest frog in a Michigan pond is called a bullfrog. They're like 4 or 5 times this size. And they eat green frogs. The bullfrog is dying from pollution. They can't tolerate acid rain. Because the bullfrogs are dying because of acid rain, and these guys can tolerate acid rain or pollution. These guys' numbers, their numbers actually go up. Because their predators going down, and their tolerance of how we change the world. Now, I don't know if you noticed on the side of its head, the circles. Those are its ears. Now, I can tell this is a female. She has small ears. Males sometimes look like deer plates glued to the side of their head. And you're like, well, how come some frogs, the boys have big ears, and the girls have little ears? Well, why is it so important for the boys to hear, but not girls? Well, it has nothing to do with hearing. They can hear with their ears. But guess what the boys do with them? They also sing out of their ears. They're like speakers. The bigger the speaker, the bigger the noise. You know, when I saw a frog and I saw his throat moving, and I saw him singing, well, so what? When I sing, my chest moves. By the way, you don't hear me sing. But when I sing, my chest moves, but that's not where the sound is coming from. It's coming from out of my mouth. So guess what? When a frog's throat moves, that does not mean that's where the sound is coming from. Most of it is coming out from between their ears. By the way, there's not a lot of brains in between those ears. It's mostly airspace. Yeah, it's like an echo chamber in there. Now, do all frogs do that? No. Only some frogs sing out of their ears. Let's see what else we have. Ow. I think we're going to take a look at, where'd he go? Oops. I think we're going to take a look at a reptile. We'll take a look at a young reptile. Well, I shouldn't say young, he's like about a year old. A little over a year old. Depending on when he counts birthday. And that's this little guy right here.
What's that?
This is a young snapping turtle. Now the first couple weeks of June in southern Michigan, this time of year in northern Michigan, the females come out of the ponds, rivers, and lakes. They dig a hole in the ground, they lay their eggs. They cover them with dirt, they go back to the water. and they leave the eggs. And typically around September, October, when the leaves change color, the eggs hatch out, and most of the baby turtles will walk to the nearest pond, where they'll have their first meal the following May. Come out of an egg September, October, eat no food until May. There's a problem. If the water is colder than 55 degrees, they cannot digest food.
Wow.
And in the winter, it's colder than 55 degrees. So guess what? They eat nothing for the first several months of life. Then, when things warm up, they start eating. Oh, and again, one of their favorite foods, same favorite food that little salamander tadpole would have had, called mosquito larvae. They right out on them. Or for those areas that spray kill mosquitoes, it's one food source that is missing. So as much as I don't like mosquitoes biting me, I understand they have a role within an ecosystem. And I don't know about you, but I like eating celery, I like cilantro in my salsa, I like eating carrots. And guess what? Those are all pollinated by male mosquitoes. Yeah, I'm sorry, I raise honeybees. Honeybees don't do all the work. Other insects do as well. So we forget those things that animals do for us. Now, by the way, we're having a problem with, now this is a 1-year-old. I found him going across my lawn the other day. I should say my dog found him going across the lawn. But in about 9 or 10 years, he'll get a little bigger. In about 9 or 10 years, it'll look like this. I found this one. This is what they look like in about 9 or 10 years. Oh, he's a small one.
That's a big thing.
This one I found in my yard this year. Again, my dog found it. And to check to see if it was going to lay eggs, I tipped it up, right? I put my fingers in front of her back legs. And I could feel it like marbles under there. I knew she had eggs. So I left her alone. And finally my dog left her alone. By the end of the day, I saw her heading for the road. I didn't want to get run over by a car. When I picked her up, put my fingers there, no eggs. She dug a nest in my garden. So she laid them on June 9th. Hopefully they'll hatch out this fall, September or October. Now there's a problem though. We're having a problem with our turtles. When they lay those eggs, they simply cover them over so I'll go back to the water. And whether the eggs develop as a male or as a female depends on temperature. If you keep a snack warm, it develops as a male. Same egg a little cooler and it becomes a female. We're getting climate change. Gee, we got all the smoke out here coming from out of Canada. More dry seasons, more fires. Well, guess what? More warmer summers, more males born, and less females. It used to be in southern Michigan, for every 10 eggs that were laid, 5 were male, 5 were female. Most years recently, it's been 8 males, only 2 females. The only difference between a male and a female, the development of an egg is 1 or 2 degrees. Now, people think snappers are mean turtles. Now, when I first picked her up, even today, she opened her mouth and threatened to bite. Not because she was mean, but because she's scared. Any animal will defend itself if frightened. Now, I guarantee every lake in Michigan, every pond in Michigan, every river has snapping turtles in it. Yeah, we never hear people being attacked by snapping turtles. They've got better things to do than come after a big creature like us. You don't survive in nature by going after bigger animals. And so they just don't. We also hear, by the way, how powerful the bite is. Oh, they'll bite your fingers off. They bite broomsticks in half. That's what I call garbage. They do not bite fingers off, do not bite broomsticks in half. I've an alligator snapping at home 3 times this size.
Is he peeing?
Yeah, it's scared. I gave it a fish fillet yesterday. And even though that turtle's 3 times this size, you cannot bite the fish fillet in half. We see stuff posted on Facebook all the time. Somebody posted something not too long ago. They had a hot dog on the end of a stick. And they teased the great big snap until it was bit in half. They said, wow, look how powerful it is. That doesn't take power. You can break a hot dog in half with your 2 fingers. Okay? Yeah, but they make it sound like they're mean, vicious creatures, and they're not. Now, we don't like teasing animals, but sometimes we test things. And I had one a couple years ago, a lot bigger than this. It had its mouth open and could not even leave a dent in a pencil. It's not biting power. The big head's called vacuum power. I thought she's got long legs. She's a good swimmer, she's good at climbing. They'll climb over fences. Now, I don't even notice she's got this green stuff on her back called algae. She likes this green stuff. A tadpole feeds on it, tadpole dinner. A crayfish feeds on it, crayfish dinner. A goose feeds on it, goose dinner. By the way, they can't eat the goose the same day they kill it. Too tough. They drown a goose, they wait a week or two for it to get rotten or tender, then they go after it. And by the way, it's kind of like us with animals too. You don't want to kill a cow today and eat them today. You let them be aged for a few days, it becomes tender. That's why we don't kill an animal the same day we eat it. They're normally hung for a while, become tender. They like their meat tender. In North America alone, there's 24 different kinds of algae that we know of that is nowhere in the world except on the backs of turtles. No turtles, the green algae disappear. By the way, I'm going to put this thing back in the cooler. I forgot to bring it today. I hope she hasn't figured it out yet. There's a new turtle. Once they learn to pop the lid on these things, you can't keep them inside. He gets very excited driving the expressway at 75 miles an hour with a snap girl next to you. And when they get loose in a car, they never go to the back door. They always go to the driver's side, between the driver and the window. Don't know why, but that's what they do. Makes for an exciting ride. You see the car going down the expressway like this sometimes. It might just be me with a snapping girl in the car. It's a bit strange things, but known to happen. Anyway, now, that's a very common turtle in Michigan, and so is this next one. This next one is our state reptile. Does anybody know what our state reptile is? What's our state reptile? What do you think it is? Hang on, let's see what we have here. Hang on here. Hang on, if we get it out of here. Maybe? There we go. It's called a painted turtle. It's a big one, it's a big female. I can tell it's a female because it's thick from top to bottom. The girls have their room for eggs inside. The boys don't lay eggs, therefore they're skinnier. They don't have much room. Now if you want to see what the painted turtle feels like, you can. But there's a couple rules. We don't touch it by its head, because I don't want it attached to your finger. I don't want to scare it. But you'll touch it back here very gently, you can see what it feels like. And no matter how gently you touch the turtle, it feels it. You got to remember, this shell is not its house. It can't crawl out and leave it behind. You can see in cartoons, a turtle shell is its ribs. When they're born, there's actually spaces between the ribs. And they actually grow together as one solid bone. And they start off with ribs that are actually separated. And the ribs protect all the organs inside. Okay? Our ribs protect our heart and our lungs. Theirs protect their heart, their lungs, their liver, their kidneys, protects everything. Now, the dark shell on this painted turtle helps it to survive. Now, this one's got a greenish. Some are a light brown, some are a dark brown. I look around this room and I see no two of us look exactly alike. We have different eye color, hair color, skin color, but we're all people. Well, guess what? I've never seen two painted turtles look exactly alike. Some are green, some are brown, some are almost black. They vary. Some have red stripes down the middle, some don't. But what they're famous for are these pretty red markings around the edge. That's why we call them a painted turtle. It's not a painter. It's called painted. It's just somebody painted them. And the bright red markings are actually a warning color. Leave me alone. If you don't, you might regret it. Not so important now that it's an adult, but when it's a baby, it was very important. When they're born, they're about as big as my thumbnail. They're tiny. I caught one in a net once, I thought it was a beetle. I thought it was an aquatic beetle, that's how tiny it was. Well, guess what? When they're as big as my thumbnail, they swim around the middle of rivers, lakes, and ponds where the fish that have no manners at all. We call them largemouth bass. They don't chew their food. They inhale it, all in one piece. Now most animals get swallowed, they run out of oxygen, they suffocate, they die, and they're digested. Here's the problem. These guys can hold their breath a long time. Think about it. What do they do in the wintertime? They bury themselves in September, up north, and don't come out until June. buried in the mud, holding their breath for September, October, November, December, January, February, March, for 8 or 9 months. So because of that, guess what happens when they get swallowed? They don't run out of oxygen. But being inside an animal's stomach is not fun. Your big digestive while you're still alive. Your skin starts to disappear, your eyes are being digested, so it is not fun. And they want out. Instead of getting that yell and scream, let me out of your stomach, they do the next best thing. They scratch the inside of the fish's stomach. They bite the inside of the fish's stomach. Now, I don't know about you, if I had something like that inside of me, I'd spit them out. Scientists found out that 9 out of 10 bats are smart. Let's spit them out. Now, there's an important word, by the way. 9, not 10 out of 10. 1, not so bright fish. It died of major stomach problems. But the scientists kept the smart fish for a year. They fed them all kinds of stuff. And they put baby turtles in the lagoon. The fish looked up at them like, wow, dinner. And not a single fish was dumb enough to eat a second one. We're talking a fish with a brain this big. Remember one bad experience from a year before. Now, how do we know it's the color, though, and not just the shape of a turtle? Scientists took some baby turtles and they tattooed away the bright red markings. They covered them over. They put the little tattooed turtles in with the fish. Fish was up. That was a dinner. And they ate them. It was the bright red markings that they recognized. And by the way, I said this was a female. One, because he's very thick. Also, I looked at the fingernails. You ever find a can turtle? And it's a grown-up, you want to find out if it's a boy or girl? Look at the toenails.
Oh.
Some have long, skinny fingernails, that long. Some have short nails. If it's short nails, it's a girl. They hit the long nails in the ground to hold their grip while they're digging the hole and to lay their eggs with the back legs. The boys, they got long, skinny fingernails. They tickle the girls with them. It's part of the dating process. You know, turtle have the dating process. And by the way, you better tickle the just right or you don't recognize it's a species. It's like a pass. It's like a code on a computer. It really is. There's no thinking involved. I like my. Now, by the way, these are what we call aquatic turtles. They live in the water. But Michigan's got. Here. We have one land turtle in Michigan, at least in western Michigan, not here in eastern Michigan. Let's see what we have here. And that's this one right here. It's called a box turtle. Again, if you want to see it, it feels like you can. Now the box turtle lives on land. And so there's a problem. Come wintertime, how do you keep from freezing to death? I mean, the ones in a pond can hide under the mud at the bottom where it doesn't freeze. Well, guess what? In Michigan, we depend on these things right here called dead leaves. Dead leaves are a blanket for the ground. You leave leaves on the ground, it keeps the ground from freezing as deep. In fact, a few years ago, we had a day it was 20 below zero, literally 20 below zero. There was no snow on the ground. I dug underneath the leaves of my yard, and guess what? It wasn't frozen. Where there were no leaves, it felt like a concrete parking lot. So leaves help the box turtle to not freeze to death. There's something else that helps the turtle not freeze to death. It's called snow. Box turtles are native to western Michigan, but not eastern Michigan. Western Michigan gets more snow than we do in the east. And you might think snow is cold, but it's often warmer than the air. If you have snow on the ground in the wintertime and it's clear up to my armpit, you stick the thermometer under that snow up to my armpit, it's going to say 32 degrees under the snow. Even if the air above the snow is 20 below zero. So that snow is insulation. Because of Lake Michigan, they get more snow on the western side of our state. So we have many animals. We usually went to the bathroom too. Well, I'll tell you what they're good at doing that today. Animals go to the bathroom, they're scared. They literally do. They go to the bathroom, they're scared. Because guess what? Frogs can hop 10% further after going to the bathroom than before. I don't know about you. I can run faster if I don't have a full stomach. So guess what? Animals tend to do that. Now, I always thought turtles were kind of dumb. I thought, well, gee, they walk slow, they must think slow. And not all species of turtles are equally intelligent, but box turtles are smart. Many years ago, I taught school in a place called Georgia. Well, I had box turtles in one room, but there's a problem. They walk into the living room, and they go to the bathroom on the living room floor. And I wasn't stepping in that stuff. So I decided one day I'm gonna teach my turtles, you stay in your room. So the box took him walking in my living room. I clapped my hands and I yelled, hey. And the turtle didn't know what it meant, so he kept walking. Guess what I did? I picked up the box turtle, I set him upside down in his room. It doesn't hurt him, but they don't like it. Stuck its neck out, turned itself over. 5 minutes later, walking in again. I clapped my hands, I yelled, hey, I picked it up, set it upside down in his room. 5 minutes later, it came walking in again. I clapped my hands and I yelled, hey, guess what? It went back. After 2 bad experiences, I turtle knew what it meant. That's fast mind training dog. The box turtle was so smart, it actually learned my work schedule. It really did. I come home from teaching school, there'd be little deposits on the living room floor. Things had been knocked over, I knew they'd been in there. I had never ever caught them in the living room. Or he's back in the room by the time I got home. So they were kind of cool. By the way, if you ever see a box turtle for sale in a pet store, do me a favor, don't buy it. They have been stolen from the wild. They go down to states like Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and they offer the kids $5 for every box turtle. It's like, I'll be back on Saturday. You bring the turtle, I'll get $5 a piece for them. They sell them to pet stores for $10. They sell them to you for $19.95, $20. Well, guess what? I've been to pet stores. Oh, no. We raise them on turtle farms. That turtle is probably 40, 50, maybe even 60 years old. You don't raise for 60 years and then sell them for $19.95. Now, we're going to take a look at a skinnier reptile. Let's see what we have here. And 2 more I'm going to look at. Let's see what we have here. Now, we're going to take a look at a very common reptile in Michigan. Let's see what we have here. That's this creature right here. Now, this is called an eastern garter snake. And then we say I believe she's gravid. I mean, she's pregnant. Because they're not normally quite this fat all the time. And she's been maintaining her weight. She's been good and fat ever since I caught her a week or so ago. Now, if you want to see it now, they'll settle down here for just a minute. Now, garter is called a garter snake, by the way, not a gardener snake. Doesn't plant crops. Doesn't live in your garden. I'd love to take the insects out of your garden. I've never seen one eat an insect. I talk to some people, oh yeah, I've seen them do it. Well, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but I've never seen it happen. All the years I've taken care of garter snakes, you put a bunch of crickets in with them, the crickets die of old age. They don't get eaten by the snake. Now, if you want to see what it feels like, you can. Again, you touch down by the tail. We don't pull on it. You can see what it feels like if you want to. The most dangerous thing a garter snake will do to you is go to the bathroom on you, just like the turtles. But they don't smell as good as the turtles. I can tell you that right now. They have what are called musk glands. And it's a good chemical defense. Some animals go, oh, that's too nasty for the reality, that thing. Yeah, so sometimes they will go to the bathroom on you. That's usually the first thing they do. And if a snake is going to bite you, it's usually within the first 10 seconds you pick them up. They bite you once, you hang on to them, well, that didn't work, that didn't scare me, they didn't let me go. Yeah. Now, snakes are not slimy, by the way. Reptile scales are always made of the same stuff as your fingernails. My fingernails aren't slimy, they might be shiny, but they're not wet. So, but you can see what it feels like. Now this is probably an average size colored garter snake. I've seen blue ones, I've seen red ones, I've seen green ones. I've seen with no stripes, bright stripes, brown stripes, orange stripes. Maybe very, ooh, I can smell her now. She's giving off a little bit of musk. She's giving off garter snake perfume. And by the way, every species of snake has its own smell. Believe it or not, I've done it long enough, I can tell a smell from a garter snake, from a rattlesnake, to a copperhead. I can tell different species by the smell. Now, this snake, by the way, she's very curious. When she looks at you, she has no clue what kind of animal you are. She looks at you like, what's the big hairy creatures out there? She identifies you by smell. And garter snakes do that with their tongue. Snakes smell their tongues. We smell their noses, they smell with their tongues. The longer their tongue, the better their sense of smell. Believe it or not, if your nose was as efficient as smelling as a snake's tongue, you could probably smell a single hamburger from here to the expressway. That's their sense of smell. Make you wonder, what is this poor snake thinking about? When I bring them to a city with thousands of people, we're building sometimes with hundreds of people. If I was that poor snake, I'd be scared to death. Now, some people say, oh, you know, what happens if it bites me? Well, this garter snake bites me, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to die of old age. It won't be from the garter snake bite. Its teeth are so tiny that if I open its mouth, you could not even see its teeth.
Wow.
They're like small grains of sand. If anybody ever tells you that a snake take a bite out of something, you instantly know they're lying. Even the biggest snakes on earth cannot take a bite out of something. Snakes' teeth are designed simply for holding on to their food, keeping it from escaping. Okay, they're very, very delicate. Now we get 2 sets of teeth. Well, some people get 3. Baby teeth, adult teeth. Don't take care of those, you might get the false teeth. But yeah, you've got basically 2 sets of natural teeth, let's put it that way. Well, snakes aren't like that. Their teeth are so delicate, they're always getting new teeth. I mean, at any one time, there's 7 sets of reserved teeth sitting down below the gum lines. Fangs on a rattlesnake, by the way, are just modified teeth. A friend of mine many years ago, he got himself a cottonhead, which is a venomous snake, and he pulled the fangs out. Like, well, it'll be safe. His brother came back from college, and said, you sure that snake's safe? He said, yeah, see, he squeezed the mouth open, and here sat 2 new fangs. They're only without teeth a day or 2, 2 new ones swing in. Take those out, next day another 2 come in. Their teeth are so delicate that they often lose them when they're eating their prey. They literally are constantly losing them. They must always be very, very sharp, but also very, very tiny. Now, snakes have babies 3 different ways, by the way. Some snakes lay eggs. Some snakes, like rattlesnakes, lay eggs inside, and they have portable incubators. And then there's garter snakes. Garter snakes and water snakes we call advanced snakes. They're more like us. They act as nourishment for the mother's body. Placental in structures. And that's unusual in the reptile world. Now, when she has babies, by the way, she is going to give them absolutely 0 parental care. You know, what a lousy mother. No, what do you mean lousy mother? What's she supposed to do with teeth the size of a grain of sand? How is she supposed to protect her babies from an opossum, a raccoon, a coyote, a fox weighs 30 pounds, got great big teeth? No, she stayed with her babies. She'd have dead very long with her babies. She could have 30, 40 babies at a time. Out of 30 or 40 babies, we might expect maybe 1 to grow up, if she's lucky. Maybe none of her babies survive this year. Maybe 1 survives next year. That's the way nature works. Frogs do even more so. Bullfrogs do normally 30 to 40,000 eggs at a time. In a lifetime, they have 250,000 eggs. Out of 250,000, all we need is 2 to grow up. 1 replaces the mother when she finally dies, and 1 replaces a male. So sometimes people ask what an animal's role is in nature. Sometimes the role is to be food for another creature, but maybe it survives. That's the way it is. Animals aren't all supposed to survive. Why are you supposed to serve the baby animals? When nature, the first ones to go are the baby animals. 8 out of 10 baby robins. You have robins in your yard? 8 out of 10 will not see their first birthday. They see their first birthday, good chance they'll see their 13th birthday. It's that first year. And that's the way life goes. But she's not a mean animal. Neat little creature. I like my garter snake. Now we're going to try to take a look at 1 more animal. And see what we have. Put this tail in there. So by the way, they used to think that snakes couldn't hear airborne sounds. Because we don't see any ears on the outside. We find they can hear airborne sounds. Their skin vibrates and moves the bones inside. They can hear, as long as it's a right frequency. Now, we're going to take a look at an animal that's right around here, right around Hamtramck. It's an amazing creature. Come here. And that's this type of bird right here called a pigeon. Now, pigeons are really amazing birds. And yet a lot of people take them for granted. We shouldn't. Anything that's common, we take for granted. When something's an endangered species, we want to know about it. We want to save it. We want to see it. But if they're out on our city streets, hey, it's one of the most amazing birds in the world. Pigeons can do things most birds can't do. Pigeons can count. Most animals cannot count. All right? How many fingers?
2.
How many fingers?
3.
Okay, it doesn't matter if I'm 2 or 3. Those traits doesn't matter. Even if we have no words for it. We know this is different than this. It's called counting. Most animals can't tell the difference. Robin's got 4 eggs, you had 2 more, she can't tell 6 eggs from 4 eggs. She can't tell the difference. You can't fool a pigeon. They got 2 eggs in the nest, you had 1 more, they know something's wrong. They can count. They can even do subtraction. 3 people go in a building. 2 people leave the building. They know 1 person's still inside. You can't fool them. There's an old duck hunting trick. Ducks are the smartest pigeons. Old duck hunting trick is 3 hunters go into the duck blind. 2 duck hunters leave. The ducks think they're all gone. They can't do the math. You can't fool a pigeon. Now, by the way, you might notice something on its head, its eyes. Its eyes are different than yours, aren't they? Your eyes are on the front of your head. Eyes on your front of your head is important for catching moving objects. Don't believe me? Try playing catch with a baseball when your eyes shut. You know, quickly learn that's a big mistake. It takes 2 eyes focusing on something to judge distance and speed of a moving object. Its eyes are on the side of its head. If it had hands, it could not catch a baseball. But the benefit of having eyes on the side of its head is this. This bird right now sees the entire room. Now, when you're looking at me, you can't see the wall behind you. This bird sees the entire room. Makes it very difficult to sneak up on. Now, I didn't say impossible, I said difficult. Okay? When I'm deer hunting, if a deer is too close, I think you might see me move. Guess what? I wait for the deer to put his head behind something so he can't see me. Well, guess what? Hawks and other predators. Hawks and other predators, they'll wait for a pigeon to put his head behind something. Even a pigeon can't see through a tree or a dead leaf. Now, pigeons are different than most birds, by the way. Most birds find food and feed their babies. Some birds, like chickens and ducks and geese, guess what? They start finding food the day they hatch out of an egg. The pigeons are different. Pigeons actually make food to feed their babies. And the strange thing is the male makes it first. They have a sac in there called a crop, like a grocery bag made out of skin. And when the babies hatch out, the male starts producing something called pigeon milk. It looks like cottage cheese. And they feed that to the babies. Very easy to digest, very nutritious. Then the female pigeon starts to make it. And they grow very, very fast on it. And then they start swallowing seeds and softening them and feeding their babies. And they grow on that. And in less than 3 weeks, from the day they hatch out, and by the way, they hatch out, they're about the size of my thumb, no feathers, downright ugly, and they are not cute when they're babies, let me tell you. Their beak looks 3 times how it should be. It's really ugly. But less than 3 weeks later, they're flying away. Hatch out, naked, featherless, eyes sealed shut, and usually 17, 21 days, flying away. That gives them time to have a second batch of babies, or even a third. 3 batches, maybe 1 or 2 will survive. Kind of cool. And by the way, why do some birds migrate south and others stay? It's not because it's cold. It's cold for the little chickies that stay here all winter. It's cold for the pigeons that stay here all winter. Birds migrate because they can't find the kind of food they need. If you're a bird that eats flying insects, you better go south for the winter. Now, we have lots of flying insects in summer, don't we? And that's why they return. I used to wonder sometimes why I need wildlife tours around the world, by the way. Costa Rica, Ecuador, Kenya, and Africa, and all over the place. I used to wonder, why don't our birds just fly to the rainforest and stay there if it's so wonderful? Well, guess what? We have more lakes and rivers and ponds in Michigan. A lot of insects start their life in rivers, lakes, and ponds. And then they fly away, and they become bird food. Cool bird. I like my pigeon. Now, this bird, by the way, this bird was born lucky. Got a white rump.
The pigeons fly?
Yeah, he's good at flying. I'm hanging on to him so I can't fly. But he's got these white feathers. He's a lucky pigeon. Not all pigeons have a white rump. Pigeons with white rump survive better than pigeons without a white rump. Who would have thought? The color of your feathers on your rump determine your likelihood of surviving. When a whole bunch of pigeons are together and somebody's scared and they all jump out one time, they flash that white, and that's enough to startle a predator just long enough where they escape more often than the other pigeons. Kind of cool. I like my pigeons. Now, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned some things today. Now, to have wildlife, we have to have plants. And we always forget about that. We always want to see the animals. Sometimes, even though you're in the city here, you can help wildlife sometimes. You'd be surprised what you can do. Sometimes, if you have trees in your yard, rather than having the leaves hauled off, rake them in a pile. You'd be surprised how many butterflies and moths spend the winter in here as little pupa or cocoons, and they get to hatch out in the spring. Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti, some other cities this year had something called No Mow May. Try not to mow your lawn too early in the spring. Wait a while, because some of those dandelions and that are pretty important flowers for honeybees and other creatures. And sometimes you can plant seeds. Anybody know what kind of butterfly that is?
Monarch.
What is it? A monarch. And our monarchs migrate all the way down to Mexico. And by the way, scary thing happening. Their numbers are down 85% from just 25 years ago. You compare 100 when I was your age, there's only 15 today. But you can help the monarch. Sometimes you can take the milkweed seeds and plant them and get milkweed. So even in a city yard, by planting the right kind of plant, we can help save something like a beautiful monarch butterfly. And by the way, monarch caterpillars, only one kind of food in the entire world, milkweed. Nothing else in this world. So if you want to help the monarch, plant milkweed, butterfly weed, that's type of milkweed. So you can help nature. It doesn't matter if you live out in the country, it doesn't matter if you live in a city, we can all help. And sometimes it's like, doing nothing, like leaving your leaves laid on the ground. Costs us less, it's easier to do. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned some things. Anybody have any questions they'd like to ask before I leave? What would you like to know?
How rare is a brown pigeon?
How rare is a?
Brown pigeon.
Not super rare. It's not the most common color, but I've seen a lot of brown pigeons. And by the way, anybody know what color the feathers were on that pigeon's neck? What color were the feathers? Purple. They looked purple, didn't they? Guess what? They weren't purple. What do you think they were? If they weren't purple, what color were they? Pink and blue. No, it wasn't pink and blue either. This is a trick question too, by the way. What do you think? Yeah, they're black. Blue jays are not blue. Bluebirds are not blue. Peacock feathers are not blue. There's no such thing as a blue pigment in any bird feather in the world. You ever get a chance to see a mallard duck? You got to do a green head. To make color green, we need blue and yellow, right? Well, there's no blue, so you can't have green. Watch a mallard. 1 minute his head looks green, he turns it, looks black. A blue jay, you see it? He looks bright blue. He gets in the shade, all of a sudden he looks black.
Yeah.
Their feathers are like raindrops. Raindrops split up the sunshine into all the pretty colors, and we see a rainbow, don't we? Birds' feathers turn the light so we see the blue part of the rainbow. It's kind of cool. So the instant somebody saw purple, somebody else was seeing green. Somebody else seeing blue at the same time. All depends on where you're standing. Nature's kind of fun. Science is fun. And by the way, libraries, fantastic place to find information about these animals and other animals. Use the libraries. They got some good stuff here. Any other questions before we get going? Yes, what would you like to know? Yeah, I like rainbows. I love it. You know, sometimes you get up in the mountains, you see circular rainbows. Yeah, when I've been in the rainforest, down in Costa Rica, you get circular rainbows. You get up in the car, you look down in the valleys, you see circular rainbows, which are really kind of fun. You almost got rainbows on your fingers, don't you? Most of the colors. Wow, I like that. Thank you much for coming. Enjoy it. You guys have one last thing. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
I want to see what's this.
You guys did great, by the way. I appreciate the good age. You did fantastic.
Is that fun?
You did great. You like it? Good thing on that. How did you know that about the problem? Did you see me a few years ago? No? Oh, man, you learned Still on the green side. Doing good. excellent school. She's 12 now. She's getting pretty much straight A's. Wife's going to take class at a hot community